You arrive carrying a mind that has been busy all day, threads of conversation still clinging to you, fragments of news and numbers flickering across your inner screen, the echo of other people's urgency humming in your chest. I see the weight it places on your breathing, the way your attention keeps reaching for something solid to hold, the way your heart wants quiet. Not the hollow quiet of escape, but the rich quiet where courage grows. You are not asking for perfection tonight. You are asking for strength that feels honest, humane, and steady. Strength that lets you think clearly when emotion rises, speak gently when pressure mounts, choose the long road when the short one shouts your name. There is a reason you feel tired of trying harder. Willpower alone is a poor bridge over a deep river. It sways in the wind, and when you grip it, your hands burn. You have tried to cross with force. Now you are learning to cross with wisdom. Wisdom is not a slogan. It is the art of selection, the discipline of arranging your inner world so that energy flows where it should. The ancients spoke of a city with gates and walls, of a well at the center, of a king whose first duty was to guard what entered and what stayed. Neuroscience speaks of a mind shaped by what it repeats, of pathways strengthened by attention, of a nervous system that can be trained to meet heat without collapse. Different languages, one truth: what you consistently allow, you eventually become. So breathe where you are. Let your shoulders settle an inch. Feel your feet on the ground or the chair beneath you. Notice how awareness changes the texture of your body. Calm does not mean the absence of pressure. Calm means you are rooted while pressure passes. Your brain learns from repetition, and your heart heals with kindness. And it is possible, quietly, gradually, faithfully, to braid the two. Not through shame, not through frantic effort, through practices that are small, humane, and repeatable, through choices that respect your limits and honor your calling, through a way of seeing yourself that is firm without being harsh, hopeful without being naive. What follows is not a sprint and not a sermon. It is a way of walking that holds your hand and strengthens your step. You will hear images that feel ancient because they are, and you will hear guidance that feels current because it is. City gates and calendars, decrees and identity, furnaces and breath, wells and friendships. Your nervous system is listening, and it wants coherence. Your spirit is listening, and it wants truth. Your life is listening, and it wants a structure that can carry real weight. The mind you have can be trained. The heart you carry can be guarded. The strength you seek can be practiced until it becomes your way. If it helps, keep a page nearby to catch a sentence that moves you, or a question that asks for an honest answer later. If it helps, let the pauses be long enough for you to hear your own voice under the noise. If it helps, choose one thread tonight rather than all of them at once, because one thread pulled with patience can loosen a knot that has held for years. This is not about performing for anyone. This is about befriending your mind so it becomes a trustworthy home, not a battlefield that exhausts you before the day has even begun. The journey unfolds in 5 movements, each one simple in form and deep in consequence. First, the gatekeeper mind, choosing inputs like a king. Then pre-decisions beat motivation, the ant's discipline. Next, rewriting the inner decrees, identity scripts that hold or free you. After that, turning heat into strength, adversity as the furnace. Finally, guarding the well, boundaries, body, and brotherhood. Hear how each title carries a picture your body understands. A gate that either opens or closes, an ant that prepares without fanfare, a decree that shapes what is permitted, a furnace that purifies under watchful care, a well that must stay clean if the whole city is to live. These images are not decoration. They are handles your nervous system can grip when the day is busy and your thoughts are loud. Notice what draws you. Notice what resists. Sometimes the place that calls you most is the place that hurts the least. Sometimes the place that matters most is the one you want to avoid. That is not failure. That is guidance. If your chest loosens at the thought of clearer gates, Begin there. If your stomach knots at the mention of identity, that may be a sacred invitation. If the word furnace feels like too much heat, you are not weak. You are a person who has carried more than most people know. Strength does not bully you. Strength invites you into a rhythm you can sustain. Strength does not shame you. Strength tells the truth and stays kind. Strength does not rush you. Strength keeps step with your breath until your breath grows longer. You do not have to choose everything tonight. You do not have to fix your whole life in one sitting. You are here to plant a seed of order in a mind that longs for peace and power to walk together. Peace without power drifts. Power without peace burns. Together they make a steady flame, the kind that lights a room without consuming it. As you listen, let the language sit in the body, a gate settling on its hinges, a small ant carrying one grain, a seal pressed into warm wax, a forge attended by a careful craftsman, a well-kept clean for the sake of everyone who drinks. Your brain remembers pictures. Your heart trusts pictures. Your body relaxes when meaning is simple and anchored. We begin gently, not because the work is small, but because gentleness is the only way strength can last. We begin slowly, not because you are behind, but because slow is how your brain rewires without revolt. We begin with respect, not because we avoid hard truths, but because respect is the soil where hard truths can take root and change you. If a single sentence feels like medicine, keep it. If a single practice feels like oxygen, guard it. If a single question feels like a doorway, walk through it when you are ready. The city is yours to tend, the crown is your responsibility, the well is your life, and the path ahead, quiet, steady, deeply human, awaits your next honest step. There is a quiet courage in admitting that the mind feels crowded, in whispering that focus slips away like water through open fingers, in confessing that strength seems to appear in brief flashes and then fade. You have tried to be disciplined while carrying a heart that still bruises easily, and you have wondered if something is wrong with you. Nothing is wrong with you. You are a human being living under a sky of constant signals, and your nervous system has been keeping watch for far too long without enough shelter. The ache you feel for steadiness is not a flaw, it is evidence of wisdom already waking. What you long for is not a mask of toughness, it is a kinder power. The kind that allows you to be steady without growing hard, clear without losing tenderness, resilient without drowning your own sensitivity. Imagine a strength that repairs rather than represses, a strength that breathes and thinks at the same time, a strength that stays when the day grows noisy. The older wisdom speaks of gates and wells, of ants that work in quiet seasons, of words that set a course for a life. The newer science speaks of attention-shaping pathways and repetition laying tracks for thought and emotion. Different languages, one promise that ties them together. The mind can be renewed, the heart can be guarded, the life can be ordered in a way that feels human. This journey does not demand perfection to begin. It honors small beginnings and faithful returns. It blesses pauses and celebrates honest noticing. It treats shame as an unhelpful teacher and replaces it with clarity and compassion. It believes that the most enduring changes are often the most humane, and that the most humane changes are the ones we can keep. This is the tone you will feel here, firm without harshness, honest without heaviness, spiritual without pretense, grounded in images your body understands and in insights your reason respects. You will hear a path that is both ancient and present, a path that moves through clear pictures and plain words, a gate that selects, an ant that prepares, a decree that shapes identity, a furnace that turns heat into strength, a well that keeps the whole city alive. These images do not ask for performance, they invite recognition. You will notice yourself inside them, not because you must force anything, but because some part of you already knows their truth. The promise held before you is simple and real, a calmer mind that still feels, a braver heart that still listens, a steadier life that still loves. The day leaves traces on the inside of your skin, the glow of a screen that lingers behind your eyes, the echo of voices that were never meant to live in your chest, the tug to check again and again, as if certainty might be waiting on the other side of another scroll. Overwhelm is not moral failure. It is a nervous system flooded by more signals than it was built to carry. Somewhere beneath the buzz, there is a steady wish for clarity and quiet strength, for a mind that chooses what it welcomes and what it lets pass. Ancient wisdom speaks with a gentle severity. Guard your heart, because from it flow the issues of life. The image is simple: a city with gates, a keeper who knows that not everything belongs inside. The keeper is not cruel, the keeper is clear. Modern science nods in agreement. Attention shapes pathways. Repeated inputs carve grooves in thought and feeling. What arrives often enough becomes familiar, and what is familiar begins to feel true. Mental strength begins here, not in strain, but in selection. The first royalty of a life is what it allows to enter and stay. There is a felt difference when the mind becomes a gatekeeper. Noise loosens its grip. The jaw softens. Breathing deepens. Space appears between stimulus and response, a thin shelter where discernment can rise. You notice the flavor of what you consume. You notice how certain streams tighten your chest and others make room for a wiser breath. You notice the subtle cost of outrage and the quiet power of nourishing words. Slowly, the inner weather changes. Fewer storms, more sky. This is not about isolation. It is about sovereignty. A city without gates is not a symbol of freedom. It is a picture of exhaustion. When you choose what you keep, you recover the ability to think your own thoughts, to feel your own feelings, to remember your own priorities. Selection is not scarcity. Selection is stewardship. You are not shutting the world out. You are letting the right world in. You are giving your best attention a home that fits. There comes a turning point when you can name the source that most muddies your mind, the feed that leaves you raw, the conversation that steals your center, the background noise that pretends to be harmless and never is. There also comes a gentler turning when you choose a wiser stream to replace it, a page that steadies, a voice that softens, a silence that heals. The shift is quiet and decisive. Less noise, clearer priorities, energy that no longer leaks. The body confirms what the heart already knows. Shoulders lower, eyes rest. Decisions feel cleaner, not because life is easy, but because your inner gates are no longer wide open to every passing storm. Strength begins to feel honest again, not a performance, and not a shell, a grounded presence that remembers what matters and protects it with kindness. This is the first movement of a durable mind, a keeper at the gate, a calm within the city, a life that chooses its weather and over time becomes strong enough to share its shade. Some days begin like a smooth sheet of snow, and still the first steps feel heavy. You wanted consistency and found yourself stalling at the edge of your own plans, watching energy leak through tiny hesitations until the day decided itself for you. The ache that follows is familiar. You wonder why desire to change is not enough, why motivation comes bright and leaves quickly, why you speak kindly to others yet blame yourself for every misstep. There is nothing broken in you. There is a pattern at work. The mind tires when it must choose the same things again and again without a path already laid. Strength grows in the place before the moment. It grows where quiet choices remove friction, so the next action does not depend on a mood. The ancient picture is simple and stubborn. Consider the ant that prepares without a supervisor, steady in small tasks, faithful in seasons that look uneventful. The wisdom is not about pressure. The wisdom is about rhythm. When a life is set to a gentle rhythm, motivation becomes a visitor rather than a master, useful when present and irrelevant when absent. In the language of the body, the prefrontal regions rest when a plan is clear. The stress systems calm when the next step is not a debate. The habit circuits carry you like a river carries a boat already set in the current. You know the ache of stop and start. You know the sting of promising yourself and then pushing the promise forward to another day. Pre-decisions heal that sting without harshness. They are soft agreements made when you are calm, the kind that greet you later like a friend at the door. If this task lives on the page with a time, it belongs to you. If the beginning is small enough to start while you are still unsure, momentum will appear while you are already moving. If the day has a gentle closing bell that arrives at the same time, your mind learns that there is a moment when enough is enough and rest is allowed. Not orders barked in your face, quiet rules spoken in your favor. The body loves this gentleness. It relaxes at the sound of certainty. It meets the hour without a courtroom of arguments. It remembers that beginnings are often the heaviest inch of the work, and that once the hands touch the task, the heart begins to follow. The old shame loses its voice, because the choice was made earlier, somewhere peaceful, somewhere sane. You stop testing your worth with every decision. You begin trusting your word again. The riverbed holds and the water flows. There is a confidence that does not feel loud. It feels like a steady cadence under your feet. It grows when you keep company with small agreements that do not change with the weather. Calendar becomes covenant rather than suggestion. A modest doorway into any hard work becomes proof that action lives here. A simple evening ritual signals to your nervous system that it is safe to release the day and meet the night without guilt. These are not rules that shrink your life. They are trellises that train your energy to climb toward what matters. Somewhere along this path, the voice that once accused you begins to soften. You hear it notice progress instead of searching for flaws. You wake to find that predictability is not boredom, it is freedom. Decision fatigue fades, self-blame loosens its grip. Trust in yourself returns because you are no longer asking your most exhausted self to hold up the ceiling of your life. The earlier self, rested and clear, already placed the beams. Let this chapter settle like warm light across a late afternoon room. Steady preparation without supervision, quiet selections made in calm, gentle beginnings that open stubborn doors, peaceful endings that teach your body the taste of completion. The strength you are building is not loud and not brittle. It is the kind that carries you when moods change, the kind that keeps its promises without shouting, the kind that makes space for kindness while still finishing the work. There are words that live under the words you say out loud, quiet lines that seem to write themselves across the mind before you even begin your day. They arrive as familiar sentences about who you are and what always happens to you. Sentences that predict defeat before effort begins and doubt before evidence appears. They feel old because they are old. They feel powerful because they were rehearsed in secret halls of the heart for longer than memory can trace. These are inner decrees, and when they speak, the body listens, the breath shortens, and choices narrow to the size of those sentences. The ache you carry around self-sabotage and imposter feelings is not a mystery when those decrees rule unchecked. An inner critic wears the mask of wisdom and pretends that caution is kindness, while it quietly guards the borders of a smaller life. You try harder and collide with a wall that seems invisible to others, then blame yourself for the bruise. Yet beneath the blame lives a longing that refuses to die, a desire to act like a person you already respect, to live in a way that fits the truth you sense but cannot hold for long. Ancient wisdom offers a different center. When asked to choose, the figure of the wise king seeks understanding over gold, a heart aligned before hands reach for outcomes. Identity before achievement, substance before shine. Modern language affirms the same line. The brain moves toward what it believes about the self. It selects actions that match the story it trusts. It conserves energy by repeating the path it already knows. When the path says you are not the kind of person who finishes, the body organizes itself around hesitation. When the path says you are the kind of person who keeps a small promise, The body organizes itself around follow through. There is a gentle power in learning to hear the wording of your inner law, not to judge it, but to understand its spell. Often the phrases begin with always or never, the kind of words that make certainty out of a single hard season. When those phrases are named with compassion, a space opens where translation can happen. The same energy that once declared limits can become a steady declaration of values. I am a person who keeps my word in small ways. I am a person who learns quickly when I pay attention. I am a person who chooses long-term good even when applause fades. The mouth of the old decree closes and a truer sentence begins to breathe. Identity is not a costume you put on for a day. Identity is a home you build one humble action at a time until it feels natural to live there. The nervous system loves coherence. It relaxes when your actions confirm your words. It strengthens when your choices echo your values. It stops bracing for failure when it sees proof that you are the kind of person your heart has been describing. This is not a leap into a new self. This is a series of quiet steps that make the new sentence believable. Each step smooths the rough edges of doubt, and the old voice grows quieter because it no longer holds the evidence it once waved in your face. You may notice that strength begins to feel less like a battle with yourself and more like a faithful friendship with your deepest commitments. The energy that once fed self-accusation starts feeding steady work. The mind that once rehearsed worst-case scenarios begins to rehearse integrity under pressure. You move with the dignity of someone who has nothing to prove and everything to protect, not out of fear, but out of love for what you carry. The mirror becomes less of a trial and more of a witness, not to perfection, but to a person who is the same in private as in public. The symbols of this work are simple and strong. Warm wax receiving the seal of a new decree. Old parchment set beside a living journal. A door once locked now opening on oiled hinges. A voice inside that used to shout now speaking in a tone you would use with a friend. These pictures are not decoration. They are how the heart learns. They give your body a way to recognize the moment when you are choosing identity before outcome. They help you feel the shift from trying to be someone to becoming the person whose actions flow from a truer center. In time, the gap closes between what you value and what you do when no one is watching. Choices that once felt like heavy lifts begin to feel like natural movements. Resilience stops being a surge of effort and starts being a default setting that hums quietly beneath the day. You will still face pressure. You will still feel doubt, yet the old scripts will not command the stage. They will flicker and pass while the new decree stands calm and present. The life that grows from this center is not louder, it is clearer. Not harder, it is steadier. Not shiny, it is whole. This is the quiet revolution of rewriting the inner law. The city of the self receives a new charter. The crown rests on a wiser brow. The path ahead does not promise a world without challenge. It offers a self that can meet challenge without abandoning what is true. Identity before outcomes, wisdom before noise, a heart ordered toward the good so that strength feels like your natural language and not a foreign phrase you keep forgetting how to pronounce. Pressure arrives like weather across open plains, sudden and heavy, and the body hears it before the mind has words. Shoulders lift toward the ears, the stomach tightens as if bracing for impact. Thoughts grow quick and narrow. It feels like standing too close to a flame and forgetting where the door is. There is no shame in this. There is only a nervous system trying to protect what matters while the world grows loud around it. The old wisdom does not flatter pain, and it does not fear it. Iron sharpens iron. Friction held with care creates an edge that can serve. The fire is not the enemy. The unattended fire is. When heat is faced with steadiness, it becomes a tool in the hand of a craftsman. When heat is left to burn without watchful eyes, it warps what it touches and leaves a bitter smoke in the room. Unworked stress collects like ash. It blurs the air and steals the taste from ordinary joys. Worked stress clears like a window wiped clean. It does not erase the hard thing. It gives you back the shape of it so you can meet it with a cleaner mind. In the language of the body, a storm of signals begins to settle. The heart learns it can beat strongly without sprinting. The jaw remembers it does not have to clench to be brave. There's a quiet moment when fear moves from a mist to something with edges. Once you can sense the outline, the story changes. Vague dread rules the whole room. A named pressure occupies a single place on the table. It shrinks from everywhere to somewhere. It shifts from a mood that colors your world to a matter you can hold up to the light. The body loosens when meaning returns. The breath grows deeper when the unknown becomes a little more known. Breath is the bellows of this work. Long, patient exhales soften the interior, sending assurance through the spine and into the heart that you are safe enough to think. In that safety, attention widens. You notice what is still steady. You notice the piece of the moment that belongs to you and the piece that does not. You notice that clarity does not roar. It arrives like a river, finding its course under ice. As steadiness returns, choice begins to appear again. Not 100 roads, a few honest paths. The mind locates what it can touch now. The hands remember a next movement that is small enough to manage and meaningful enough to matter. Support comes into view as well, the person who steadies your thoughts. The line in a book that strengthens your spine, the quiet habit that lowers the noise inside your chest. When heat is shared with wisdom and companionship, it loses the power to isolate. After the fire, a humble learning takes shape. You see where the metal bent and why. You see where it held true and how. From that seeing grows a safeguard for next time, not as a threat, but as a kindness to your future self. The lesson is not a whip, it is a lantern. It lights one corner of the workshop so the next piece can be worked with more care. The body keeps score, and it also keeps hope. Muscles that shook grow steadier. The face that tightened learns to soften without losing resolve. The heart that raced finds a pace that can be carried through a long day. You discover that fear can be fuel when the flame is tended. It concentrates attention. It clarifies what matters. It brings the deeper values to the surface and asks them to guide the hands. Hold a simple picture, a forge at dusk, the craftsman present and patient, the metal entering and leaving the heat again and again. Each pass burns away what does not serve and reveals what can endure. Nothing rushed, nothing wasted. Only watchfulness, breath, and the slow arrival of form. This is what it means to turn heat into strength, to let adversity refine rather than consume, to stand close to the fire and emerge with an edge that can bless rather than wound. What remains is a steadiness that does not brag. It is the quiet confidence of someone who has met heat without abandoning themselves, a firmness that keeps its humanity, a courage that remembers tenderness. The world will offer more seasons of pressure. You will meet them with a mind that knows where the door is, with a heart that knows when to soften, and with a spirit that has learned the difference between burning up and burning clean. There is a source inside you that everything depends on. When it is clear, thought flows clean, emotion settles into wisdom, choices feel honest and strong. When it is muddied, even simple tasks feel heavy, and relationships fray at the edges. The old image is a well at the center of a city, and the truth it carries is tender and uncompromising. If the well is guarded, the whole city lives. If the well is neglected, the finest streets cannot hide the thirst. The body is part of the city, not a servant kept in the shadows. When it is cared for with rhythm and dignity, the mind steadies as if someone opened a window in a crowded room. Rest that arrives at a reliable hour becomes a quiet promise your nervous system believes. Light and darkness take their proper turns. The inner tide learns to rise and fall without crashing. The day no longer steals tomorrow's energy, and tomorrow no longer borrows what belongs to tonight. Appetite speaks a language of season and measure. Honey is sweet until it is not. Abundance turns on you when it forgets restraint. What touches your tongue touches your thoughts more than you imagine, and the mind thanks you when richness yields to balance. There is a difference between comfort that restores and comfort that numbs. One returns you to yourself with clarity. The other scatters you and calls it relief. Wisdom can taste the difference with eyes closed. Companionship shapes the borders of your inner land. Walk with the wise and your steps learn their cadence. Walk with the bitter and your breath learns their sigh. No one is immune to the tone of their nearest voices. You feel it in the tilt of your judgments, in the speed of your reactions, in the subjects that visit your mind uninvited. When you stand near people who love truth and peace, your own courage grows taller without making a sound. When you stand near constant fire, even calm days feel smoky. Boundaries are walls that breathe. They are not prisons, and they are not defenses built from fear. They are the edges that allow love to last and work to be meaningful. A clear no protects a beautiful yes. A gentle limit protects the well from constant stirring. The heart does not harden when it is guarded with kindness. It becomes more available because it is less depleted. It becomes more generous because it is no longer leaking through unmarked cracks. There is a wisdom in the small ritual that signals safety to the body. A light dimmed, a page turned, a room made quiet near the edges of the day. None of this is spectacle. All of it is shelter. The mind that spends less time fighting noise has more strength for what matters. The soul that tastes regular rest stops bargaining with exhaustion. Peace is not the absence of struggle. It is the presence of order in the middle of it. Notice how steadiness gathers when your world is arranged like a garden rather than a marketplace. Fewer pathways, deeper roots, fewer bright distractions, more living green. You begin to trust your attention again because it is no longer pulled in 1,000 directions. Decisions stop feeling like emergencies. They start feeling like care. Your face softens. Your words slow down. Your presence carries weight that does not bruise. This is not the cold cleanliness of control. It is the warm coherence of a life governed by love, a clean well, a body listened to, companions who tell the truth and stay tender, desires that bow to wisdom and still keep their sweetness. The mind that lives in such an ecosystem grows strong without noise. It becomes a place where others rest when the world is loud. It becomes a city whose light is steady after sundown. Guarding the well is an act of quiet courage. It says that your life is worth sustainable care, that your strength deserves a home, that your spirit is not a machine to be used, but a flame to be tended. With time, the water clears. With time, judgment sharpens and kindness deepens. With time, the people who draw near you drink something clean and leave a little more alive than when they arrived. The journey you have taken through this hour has the shape of an old city drawn with living lines, a gate that learns to open and close with wisdom, an ant that moves in steady seasons that seem small and change everything, a decree that settles identity before outcomes speak, a furnace that turns heat into strength without burning the soul, a well that stays clear so every street can breathe. Together they form a single path that is quiet in its confidence and generous in its power, a path that lets sensitivity remain tender while courage grows sure. Mental strength becomes something different when seen through this lens. It is not the armor that numbs feeling. It is the coherence that keeps feeling aligned with truth. It is not the noise that tries to scare fear into submission. It is the calm cadence that teaches fear to sit at the table and speak in a smaller voice. It is not a sprint toward a new image. It is the slow, trustworthy rhythm of a life that honors what is sacred and tends to what is practical. The ancient wisdom and the language of the nervous system meet here and agree. Repetition with kindness changes the brain. Reverence with clarity changes the heart. Order with love changes the life. You can sense how the pieces lean toward one another. The gate protects the decree by choosing what enters. The decree guides the ant by naming who you are before the task begins. The ant steadies the furnace by giving hot days a path to follow. The furnace strengthens the well by burning away what would cloud the water. The well returns life to the gate, so selection is gentle rather than hard. Each image holds the next. Each practice feeds the others. The circle closes into something that feels whole. There is a new dignity that rises when this circle turns. Thoughts grow clean without growing cold. Emotions keep their color without running the whole canvas. Choices land with less friction because the deeper story has been named and believed. People around you sense it even when no words are spoken. They meet a presence that does not hurry and does not collapse, a presence that carries weight without pressing down. This is strength that blesses. This is strength that heals. One question waits at the doorway as the lights begin to dim. Which single movement among gate, ant, decree, furnace, or well will quietly change the texture of your next 7 days? Let the heart answer in its own accent. Let the body nod when it recognizes the truth. Let the mind witness the choice with a calm that feels new and familiar at once. When wisdom takes root in this way, it does not shout. It grows like a tree in good soil, steady in all weather, offering shade to whatever stands near. The light has grown softer, and the room inside you knows it. There is a calm aftersound in the chest, a sense that the words have settled into places that needed them. A sense that your breath now knows how to move through narrow places without losing itself. Nothing here asks for display. Everything here honors the quiet courage it takes to keep showing up for a life that matters. The images remain as companions. A gate that understands welcome and wisdom. A small worker that keeps steady time. An inner law that speaks with clarity and kindness. A forge that burns clean. A well that stays clear for all who come thirsty. They do not shout for attention. They wait beside the path and appear when they are needed, giving the mind handles and giving the heart shelter. There is a texture to the present moment that was not here before. Thoughts move with more air between them. Feelings carry their true colors without flooding the whole canvas. Choices touch the ground rather than float above it. Strength begins to feel less like a costume and more like the grain of the wood, built in, reliable, quiet, under the hand. Gratitude gathers as a gentle warmth for the parts of you that did not quit, for the wisdom that arrived in simple words and stayed, for the body that listened and softened, for the spirit that found its center again. Even the day behind you seems different when seen from here. Not perfect, honest, not painless, meaningful. When the lights fade, the work does not disappear. It changes rooms. It moves from the ear to the marrow, from the tongue to the hands, from the page to the pattern of living. What is true remains true in silence. What is kind remains kind in darkness. What is wise remains wise when no one is watching. Carry a final picture as the night draws near. A city at rest. Gates secured without fear. Streets quiet without emptiness, a crown set gently where it belongs, a clear well reflecting the first stars. Somewhere within that stillness, a steady flame keeps its faithful watch, ready to greet the next dawn with a calm that does not break.